Hey everyone, it's Karen. So today was the perfect reading morning. I slept in, it was lightly raining outside. I just stayed in my pajamas and read, and I actually ended up finishing this book, A Natural History of the Senses by Diane Ackerman. So this book was gifted to me by a friend. When I first moved to Michigan, she loaded up a whole big box of books that were some of her favorites of all time. And inside each one, she put a little index card saying why she selected it. And so this was one of the books that was in the box. This is what my friend said about it on her little index card. She said, I picked this up when I worked at a bookstore in Kansas. It's fascinating. Ackerman brings each of the senses into focus so much that you nearly experience the things with her. Of all the books I read and love, this is the one I've continually bought and given to others. It really puts the senses into perspective and makes you more aware of all the things around you. So it was really fun to get a box of books put together by a friend. So this book, as she kind of talked about, and just the title alludes to, is all about the senses. The author walks through each of the 5 main senses, but she starts off by just kind of describing how important the senses are. She says, there's no way to understand the world without first detecting it through the radar net of our senses. So that's why she chose to write this book, because she feels that our senses help us see the world, and everything is connected to our senses. So she actually starts off with the sense of smell, and throughout this book she goes to all these different locations learning things about the senses. So for smell, one of the places she went to was called IF, which stands for the International Flavors and Fragrance Inc., which is in New York City, and basically they design all sorts of custom fragrances. So if you have a perfume, for example, it doesn't matter what brand it is, it possibly came from IF. And they also talked about more interesting scents that I never really thought of. Like, for example, if you go to an amusement park and you're inside a cave, it's possible that they have a cave smell that they have put into this amusement park ride. Or they talked about how in malls, it often smells like pizza or food. And I always thought that was just because of the food court, but they might be pumping in scents of pizza and stuff to make you want to go to the food court. The next sense that was covered was the sense of touch. So she talked about how if an infant is touched, it kind of calms them down and they have a better temperament. And because of that better temperament, their parents actually like them more. And because their parents like them more, they're less likely to be abused. So I never thought of this whole I guess it could be kind of a chicken and an egg thing, but she says children who are difficult to raise are more often abused. So if you're able to touch a child, then perhaps it would make the child calmer and more lovable and easier to raise. The section of taste was very interesting. My favorite section I don't want to share too much about, but she was talking a lot about cannibalism. And there was a section describing a practice that people used to have in New Guinea that I thought was horrible and very interesting. So I'll leave it at that. You can read it yourself. The section on hearing touched on some of my favorite things, which are like meditation, yoga, things like that. Many times in meditation or in yoga, we use Om. And she talked about how that sound is important because when you're like humming it and your mouth is closed, the sound goes directly into your inner ear. It does not have to pass through your eardrum, and I never thought about that. She says that we can feel the bones in our head as well as the cartilage vibrating when we have that, and it's almost like a massage for the inside of your body. She said it creates an inner white noise, and it's kind of like a sound bath or a massage for the body. So then Diane talks about vision. She talks about how 70% of the body's sense receptors are in the eyes, and that's why people rely so much on sight, whereas my dog, who is going blind, it doesn't impact her as much because she relies more on the sense of smell. So finally, after she's covered all 5 of the main senses, she goes into cover synesthesia, which is where people experience certain senses together. For example, they might see sounds, or it's like a combination of more than one sense. sense. I keep saying scent. It's a combination of more than one sense. It happens in 1 in 500,000 people. And what I thought was the most interesting about it, since I already knew about it, but I was always curious, like, if I'm hearing something, what is the color associated with what I'm hearing or whatever? And I was curious if people that had synesthesia were seeing the same things. Like, for example, does the color blue sound like classical music? Or I just was more curious about that. And while they don't have the same experience, it does say that there was a survey of 2,000 synesthetes. I don't know how to say that, but basically people that have synesthesia from different cultures, and they found that they did have many similarities. So if they had it where they have colors, when they see colors, they also hear sounds. It said that low sounds typically had dark colors and high sounds had bright colors. One final thing that I wanted to mention is just how she discusses how our senses connect us to the past. We cannot go back in time, but we can experience things in the similar way to people before. She said our senses connect us intimately to the past, connect us in ways that most of our cherished ideas never could. So I definitely think that you should read this if you're interested in nonfiction and random information about your senses. I thought it was pretty interesting, and there's a lot of different stories in here. So that is it for today. I hope you guys have an amazing weekend, awesome Friday reads, and I'll see you later. Bye.